So what about books? So far I've been talking only about journals, but the fact of the matter is that books are not perceived, electronic books are not perceived as important to faculty members as academic journals online are. So this is just, how important do you think each of these content types are? And, you can see that something on the order of 3/4 of faculty members thinks, database of academic journals, very important. Digitized primary source collections, we didn't ask about it in 2006, but in 2009, and then in 2009, the green bars, I should have said, we're asking faculty members, how important do you think this content type will be in 5 years from now? Databases of academic journals seem like they've kind of steadied out. 3/4 of faculty members think they're very important. Digitized primary source collections are expected to continue growing in importance, and ebooks are expected to grow rather significantly in importance, even though today, it's 10 or 15% of faculty members that think ebooks are important. Now here's where ebooks are in humanities field, social science field, and science fields, where you can see that there's really no meaningful difference. You might think ebooks would be much more important in the sciences because they're more digital, let's say, or you might think much more important in the humanities because humanities scholars use books more. But it's kind of even across fields, and it's expected to go up significantly by respondents in all three fields. So then we've been starting to track, well, is there going to be a format transition for books, much the same way it seems like there is emerging a format transition for journals. So we've asked we've presented this strongly worded statement. Within the next 5 years, the use of ebooks will be so prevalent among faculty and students that it will not be necessary to maintain library collections of hard copy books. And it's obviously a very, very extreme statement. I can tell you that librarians respond much more strongly, positively to this than faculty members do. But you can see that, even in the sciences and social sciences, it's only in the range of 5 or so percentage points of faculty members that agree strongly with this statement, and it's essentially no one in the humanities. And it hasn't changed meaningfully over the last 3 years. So, there's a lot going on with ebooks right now. There's been a lot of activity in the news, even in the last few days, about a number of new ebook mergers and other kinds of things, acquisitions that have been going on, and product announcements. And so there's a sense that ebooks are going to, and certainly your librarians think that ebooks are going to be a significant growth area for them, and are going to really monographs are going to shift from print to electronic. But faculty members' perceived importance of ebooks has not grown. They think it's going to grow, but our respondents have not experienced a growth in perceived importance. But they do expect it to grow over the next 5 years. But with no sense that ebooks are going to replace print books, which I think is the fall 2009 was before the Kindle and had really gotten the level of energy it's gotten before the iPad was released. So, I think what we would find today might be slightly different here. It might not be. But I think the key question that I have is, are ebooks likely to replace print or supplement print? And those two, that question suggests radically different funding models, business models, library management models, and models for teaching and research. And I think the question about, it's quite clear to me anyway that ebooks will at least supplement print, but not clear whether there will be a replacement. So I'm not sure if I have much time left, but I only have 2 short sections remaining. One on journal publishing preferences, where we've tried over the course of time to understand what motivates faculty members in terms of what journal they choose to publish in. And part of our reason for curiosity here was because of the interest that many in the community have in seeing a shift from traditional journals towards online-only and/or open-access journals. And so we wanted to really try to dig into what motivates the author side preferences. And so our question, which we've asked over several years now, is when it comes to influencing your decisions about journals in which to publish an article of yours, how important is each of the following characteristics of an academic journal? And so we list these, I think it's six or so characteristics. And they range from the journal makes its articles freely available on the internet, to the journal is accessible to readers not only in developed nations, but also in developing nations. The journal is highly selective, which would mean that only a small percentage of submitted articles are actually published. measures have been taken to ensure the protection and safeguarding of the content for the long term. The preservation of the journal is assured. The journal permits authors to publish articles for free without paying usage charges or page charges. And then finally, the current issues of the journal are circulated widely and are well read by scholars in your field. And these are sort of very different senses of what should be one's priority in terms of deciding where to publish, why to publish. And I think what we found is unambiguously this year, and it's true over the course of time, though I don't have the comparative numbers here for you today, that this is the share responding that this characteristic is very important. And if you wanted to, you could say that all 6 of them are very important. So this is an interesting split. The most important one clearly is circulated widely and well read by scholars in your field, by peers basically, which may or may not surprise you, but is something that does come as a surprise to many librarians who would like to think, and I think for very good reason, that things like the one that's least important, making articles freely available on the internet so there's no cost to access or to read. In other words, open access that would be available to everyone around the world for free. Librarians would, in many cases, like to think that that would be of co-equal importance. But you can see that that's only, still 40% of faculty members that agree that that is very important to them. But it's nothing like the 85% that think that circulation to scholars in your field is very important. I wanted to show the comparison between the overall number, which is the red bar here, with humanists, which is the blue bar, with historians, which is the green bar, and so it's you read them from top to bottom, and you can see that historians are actually slightly think that circulation to scholars in your field is even slightly more important than the overall, and think that no cost to access or read is actually just a little bit less important than the overall. But basically the patterns don't shift. I think it's actually the same rank order across these, and so it's kind of remarkably stable across scholars across fields, with the one exception that many area studies faculty members think that being accessible to readers in developing nations is quite important to them, which I think is understandable. So that raises interesting questions about how publishers, how journals most effectively help scholars reach peers, and I think that's something that there have been pretty effective mechanisms in the print environment, and I think there's some churn in an electronic environment. How does that most effectively happen as we move from kind of broadcast models towards more selected push models, towards different ways of selecting and discovering content? I think that actually there's a lot of opportunity for changing how that works, so that in fact the peer who wants to read the article is ever more likely to actually discover it on a timely basis. And then finally, I just thought I would be remiss, given that we're at the meeting of the American Historical Association, not to share some findings that we've done. And this is the first time we've done this, and really welcome anyone's thoughts as to how to begin to interpret these findings and what they might mean. But we decided that in a similar kind of way that we asked about the functions of the academic library and what faculty members value about the academic library, we thought it would be interesting to ask a parallel set of questions about the scholarly society, because its role could also be changing in an electronic environment. And so here was our first effort to write this question, and I'd really welcome actually critical feedback about ways we could strengthen this to make it more relevant in the future. But the question is, how important to you is it that your scholarly society provides each of the functions below or serves in the capacity listed below? So it facilitates peer interactions online, disseminates more informal scholarly materials, publishes new forms of peer-reviewed scholarly communication. So those three are kind of like, if you like, new or online functions. And then two more traditional roles: organizes conferences and provides jobs and fellowship information, and then publishes peer-reviewed scholarly journals. And I guess we've, like I said, it's the first time we've done this, but those two more, what I'm characterizing as more traditional functions, clearly are the ones that the majority of faculty members want their scholarly society to provide. And I actually was surprised that the facilitates peer interactions online wasn't seen as something that a scholarly society should necessarily get involved in. But, only a third or so of respondents thought that was an important role from their perspective. And I guess, if I think about it, that's kind of the, in some ways, and I may not understand this perfectly well, but that's a little bit of the distinction between the AHA and HNet and other kinds of resources, I think. And so it feels like some of the functions that a society may have played in a traditional environment, in some cases may, but in other cases may not carry over as communications move online. And I think that's something really interesting for scholars to think about, where they want those functions to come from and how they want them provided, and what that means for the in the long term for the role and perhaps even the viability of the scholarly society as we've traditionally known it. Here you can see where historians compare to humanists and the overall, and again, really not significant differences. The rank order is essentially the same, and a little bit of noise there perhaps, but nothing that really jumps out at me anyway. So I think for me this raises questions about what roles scholars value in their society going forward, and whether pressures that some societies report that they're facing in terms of how the scholarly publishing is changing, consolidating in certain ways, how academic conferences are evolving. As I think I was reading something about, could job interviews happen over Skype or something like that? I think there's some interesting questions about what strategic change may be forthcoming for scholarly associations as well, and we'll really look forward to tracking some of these issues going forward in the future. So I hope I've raised some provocative questions, and look forward to the discussion that will emerge. Thank you.